Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Clearly Focused. I'm your host Kaylee Ely and welcome. It has been a busy month. June was absolutely insane. I had gotten back from vacation like the first 4 days of June and then hit the ground running. I had a wedding every weekend in June. I had at least one shoot, if not multiple shoots every single day. Please tell me why I did that to myself. I cannot tell you. In Tennessee, lots of people like to get their photos done in June before it gets absolutely miserably hot. So a lot of my bride and grooms were wanting to get some pictures done, their engagement photos done for their wedding. And I just had a lot of milestone sessions that happened to fall around the same month. And things that got rescheduled from May because it was raining. And so we had to push it back. And it was just absolutely insane. And then when I wasn't shooting or culling or editing, I was working on my merchandise launch. Yay! So if you guys missed it, I launched my merch on July 5th. So it's been almost a week. Well, at this point, when the episode comes out, it'll have been like over a week. So, wow, I can't tell you how excited I am and how glad I am that it's finally out there. It was a lot of work, a labor of love. It's been a project on my list for 2 years. I should pull up my phone and like take a screenshot of it. When I created the note on like the notes app on my phone, I literally was just like writing down like random ideas and sayings and stuff like that I want to include if I ever made a merch line. And now here it is. It's here. And I'm so excited for you guys to get your hands on it. There's sweatshirts, there's cups, there's a tote bag, there's a hat, there's some sticker. I'm very proud of it and I hope you guys love it. I wanted to do a good mix of like fun and vibrant and summery, and I feel like that's just like me, just like fun colors and stuff. So then also the neutral minimalist stuff, because that's also me. So you have a little bit of variety on the shop, which is something that I was really wanting to do when I was creating this, because a lot of other photography merch that's out there, you just get like one or the other. It's like bold or it's minimalist, and like that's all the person creates is like one or the other. So I wanted to have a little bit of both, and because I'm a little bit of both, and I just hope you guys like it. So you can go to the education.kayleeely.com/shop and you can see all my merch there along with other digital products that I have. And then yeah, I hope you enjoy. Let me know if you guys ever have any requests. If you're like, I really want a shirt that says this, or I really want something that says something like this, because I'm going to be doing another launch in the fall. I'm already planning it. I have at least 4 things already planned to come out in the fall. So you podcast listeners are getting a little sneak peek of that, like planned, because I haven't told anybody yet. So I hope you guys like it. Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling about my merch. Today, I have a guest on the show. Her name is Tess Gearhart, and she is Arizona/SoCal based photographer. And I don't know if you guys remember Alex and Brittany Hall, but they were on my show as guests like almost, I feel like 2 years ago at this point, and they're just a blast to have on the show. And I have been following them, and obviously we're friends. And so Tess had taken pictures of them not too long ago, and I had never heard of Tess until that moment. And I went to her page and was like, oh my gosh, her work is stunning, like literally so like filmy, and just like it gives me the feels. I loved her work. So I've been like kind of creeping on her page for a while, and then I messaged her and was like, okay, I know you don't know me, but like, do you want to be on my podcast? And she said yes. So she joined today, and we had a good discussion about all kinds of things. We chatted a little bit about like including prices on your website, traveling, travel photographers, travel fees, that kind of stuff. We also talked a lot about how to be more inclusive in your business. So that doesn't mean just for LGBTQ community, but also like race, body sizes, ages, that kind of stuff. So if you are wanting to kind of branch out and grow your portfolio in that way, then this episode is a good listen for you. So before we get into that, we have our 30 seconds that we always do just to ground ourselves, to get into the zone a little bit, and to kind of clear our mind of what we are coming from, or maybe what we're going to, like if you're driving to work or something like that. It is time for you to kind of just get in the photography zone. So this time for the 30 seconds, I'm going to give you a little exercise to be thinking about. And I want you to be thinking about like how, when you've been put in front of the camera, how you have felt. Sometimes you might be a little bit nervous. Sometimes you might be a little bit scared or uncomfortable. But if you have had a photographer who is good, like whether it's a friend or like you've paid another photographer to shoot you, if they are good at including body types or gender inclusive pronouns, that kind of stuff, how did you feel when you were working with someone who just made you feel comfortable no matter what you looked like, no matter what your size is, no matter what your skin color is, just the way that they use their words, maybe their voices calming or bubbly and happy. So just think about, and if you haven't had this experience, that's okay too. Maybe you have had bad experiences with photo shoots, or maybe you've had no experiences with photo shoots, like you've never been in front of the camera before. But just imagine how that would feel. Like put yourself in someone's shoes who maybe is a size 14, 16 and isn't like the normal, what society considers beautiful standard, right? And just see like how much of a difference we can make in this industry by changing the words that we use, the kinds of posing that we can do, and just feel it in your heart how much better you would feel having someone who is more prepared for that. So that's what this episode's going to do for you guys, but we'll get into it after our 30 seconds of silence. Hello,
Yes.
everybody. Welcome to Clearly Focused. I'm so excited to have you guys here for another episode. I have a special guest on the show. Her name is Tess, and we have been going back and forth about getting you on the podcast for a while, so I'm glad it finally lined up. I'm excited to chat with you today. You seem like such a bubbly person, and I'm a bubbly person, so I think it's going to be good. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us like where you live, all that kind of stuff.
So my name is Tess Gearhart, and I live in Prescott, Arizona. But I really, like 50% of my weddings are out of
You travel a
state.
lot.
So I have kind of travel a lot. I have kind of rebranded myself as like Arizona and SoCal based because I just enjoy going over to California so much. But yeah, I really have been doing this for 8 years now, I think. And I think 8 or 9 years. And that's like crazy. My anniversary, my decade anniversary is
That
coming
is
up. And that's
exciting.
really exciting. How long
Oh
have you been
gosh, I
doing
mean,
photography?
if we're talking about like 100% like serious professional, it's probably been since 2019, but I shot my first wedding in 2012.
Okay.
So I've been doing photography for a
Oh my
long
gosh.
time. I just did not want to do wedding photography or anything, like any kind of portrait photography. So yeah, it's been a while.
I love that. I love that. I
Yep.
started with senior
Yep.
photos in high school. And well, actually, if we really want to go to my origin, oh, sorry, that was my dog sneezing.
Poor Clark.
He's really cute right now. He's on his
Oh,
back
cute.
with his little belly up. But if we really want to go back to my origin story, it started with my mom's like
Oh my
Canon
gosh,
sure shot, like
yes.
the when they
Yeah,
made like the digital, or maybe no, the
it's
sure shot is the
Power
film
Shot, the
one,
Canon
and
Power
then
Shot.
I don't.
Yes.
Power shot, yes.
You're like
And
a real
it
OG
started
if
with
you know if
that
you
and
remember
thinking,
those.
yes, and I had one of those and I just took photos of flowers, and she ran a daycare, and I was in like, I don't know, like fifth grade, and I would take photos of like her little daycare kids and
That's
like
so funny.
babies and stuff, and I always like wanted to be a photographer, and I went to school for nursing initially and then hated it, dropped out for a year, and then went back to be a history teacher, and then hated that. Like the schooling was not fun, so I just didn't tell anybody except for my therapist at the time, and I just dropped out of
You're
school
like,
like
I'm just gonna
mid-semester
sneakily
in
peace out
2020.
here. Oh, I
COVID
bet.
COVID sent me over the edge. I think I I think I made like it was like in 2020 I made more being a wedding photographer than I would have as like my first year as a teacher, and which is crazy like
Yeah.
because of COVID too. And so I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be a teacher and get paid less for something I
Yeah.
don't even really want to
Duh.
do. And yeah, now here I am, and my mom was so scared, and now she tells me like she's so
Aw.
proud of me, she's so excited, and she's like my biggest hype man. She every accomplishment I have, she posts
Oh,
on
she's a big
Facebook,
cheerleader. We love
and
that.
oh my gosh, yes, she gets it now.
Yeah.
At first, she was
I
very
feel like that's
scared,
just
but
parents in
yeah,
general. They're
that's
like
kind of
always
my
nervous when you're like, Mom, I'm going to be a photographer. I'm going to drop out of school. And I remember my grandparents, when I told them I was going to go to college for photography, they were like, you are going to live in a cardboard box. Like, you're not going to be able to afford anything with being
yes.
like being an artist. And I was like, well, at least it's going to be a pretty box because I'm going to art school. So
You're like, at least it's gonna be
yes.
an aesthetic
Well, like
box.
I just give me like a refrigerator box and
That's
I'm
so
good.
funny.
So you've been
You're
doing this
asking.
for a long time then. You've been traveling a lot. You've been going so you said you're mostly like Arizona, SoCal. How far away is that? Like is it convenient for you to be able to bounce back and forth between Arizona and Southern California?
Yeah, so it's about a 6 hour, 6.5 hour drive. I have only one hotel I will stay at in LA because it's like it's in Calabasas, and I'm like I'm not staying
That's
in downtown
terrifying.
LA. Like you could not pay me $1 million to stay there. And so yeah, so it's about 6.5 hour drive depending on traffic. I think it's reasonable because I am like under the impression that anything under a 10 hour
Yeah.
drive is
You're built
easy.
different. You're built different.
But no, literally, I've driven across the country
That's
by myself
crazy.
too many times
Yeah.
to
I
like,
feel like if it's over 6
yeah.
hours, I'm like, I'm gonna fly.
I my like thought process is it by the time it would take me like to get to the airport, get through TSA, get on the plane, get off the plane, get my bags, it's the same amount of time, and I'd rather be listening to
Yeah.
my favorite podcast
That's
that
very
entire
true.
time. So
Yeah. I
so
love
I'm
that
a
though.
driver. And renting a car, I've
Yeah.
never had
Ooh,
good
I
luck
know.
with
It's so
them. So,
scary.
do you travel a lot
I
for you
used
travel a
to,
lot
and
for
then I
weddings, don't
stopped
you?
because I'm a homebody. Because it just got really exhausting to me and I like my dog, I like my own bed. I felt like traveling, maybe it was just like the kinds of weddings I was getting weren't like as what I wanted, you know? Like I would
Mm-hmm.
travel if it was like we were like eloping in the mountains in Colorado. That would be what I would do. But I was just
Yeah.
traveling to go to a normal venue that looks like it could be in Tennessee, you know? So I was like, yeah, is it
Yeah,
worth it? You
yeah.
know, and all of the stress of me like leaving and packing, and my husband works sometimes on the weekends too. So if inevitably the one weekend that I'd have to actually travel for work would be a weekend that he's not going to be home much because of an event that he has to work. So then we're like, who can watch the dog? And it was too much. And I don't really
Yeah.
advertise that I travel. If someone inquires with me and they're like, hey, do you want to shoot my wedding in Mexico? I'll be like, hey, absolutely. But I don't advertise that I'm a travel photographer. So
I definitely think it's
yeah.
glorified like a lot. And to be real, I have been home maybe three
Oh my
weekends
gosh.
in the past 2 months, like maybe less. And
Yeah.
so I get it. I kind of spread myself a little bit too thin this
Yeah.
year, but you live and you learn. And I do enjoy traveling a lot, especially if it's for, like you said, like a really cool venue. And that's something that I've been really picky about as of lately is making sure that people aren't just giving me like
Mm-hmm.
a location. Make sure you're asking for the venue because you don't want to show up, it could be like, oh my gosh, yeah, our wedding is in like this beautiful town in Washington. And then you get there and it's like a
Yep.
little like
Yep. And you're
Methodist
like,
church.
okay,
And
what can we do
you're
with
like,
this?
okay,
Yeah.
exactly. So if I'm traveling, I definitely want it to be for
Yeah.
something that inspires me and makes me like kind of like fills me up
Yeah.
rather than drain me
Yeah, especially if couples are paying
creatively.
all of the
So yeah,
extra travel fees for that. Like you don't want to just show up and be like,
yes.
I could have shot this at home. Like the venue looks like I could have shot this at home. You know, I've
Yeah.
shot at California venues and those are different than Tennessee because they are extravagant and like the landscaping is different. And like there's just like the
Mm-hmm.
colors are different, like all kinds of stuff. But like
The
going to
landscaping. Oh my God.
oh
The
I wish I
California
could, like, I
landscaping.
honestly wish I could live there. I talk about it all the time because so many Californians are moving to Tennessee, to Nashville. And I'm like, I want to be the opposite and move from Nashville to California because it's so pretty. Why would you
Yes.
guys leave?
I know everybody in my town, Prescott, complains about the Californians. They're like, "Ah, you're from California. I just went to the rodeo." And the like announcer was like, "Anybody here from
Yeah.
California?" And
Yeah.
everybody booed.
Boo.
And
I'm with them.
so yeah, it's definitely it's beautiful, but a lot of
Yeah.
people are leaving because it's expensive, and I just don't ever see myself moving
Same.
there, but I
Yeah.
love to
Well, and I
visit. I
think the
love to
reason a
do
lot of
weddings
people are moving
there.
to Nashville is because there's no income tax. So, and with a lot of people who are, yeah, that's why a lot of people
Ooh,
live here. And I think
fantastic.
that people in California, yeah, I know, it's
That's
really nice. See,
wonderful.
everyone's figured out our little secret over here and they're like, Nashville's kind of fun. But yeah, so I feel like people can still keep their jobs and earn the same amount of money that they earn in California, but
Hmm.
live in Nashville and not have any income tax. And so they're earning technically more money and they're paying less
Yeah.
because Nashville's not as expensive. It's expensive as heck, but it's not as expensive as California. So I think
Yeah.
yeah. It's I have beef with Californians. If you're listening, Californians, I'm so sorry, but I don't like you.
I know they're all leaving. They're all just like
Stay where
spreading
you're
out,
at.
and we're like, no, stay. You guys are supposed to stay there because more people keep
Yeah,
coming.
I
We just don't have
know.
room
I
anywhere
know.
anymore. I'm convinced. It's so interesting because I feel like we keep like getting more and more populated and all this kind of stuff, and then like, but why are bookings so slow
Yeah.
this year? I don't know if they
A
are for
lot of
you
vendors,
too.
vendors in general, but a
Um,
lot of photographers I talk
I
to
feel like
are like struggling to get bookings this year.
yeah, it's crazy. I'm completely booked for 2024. I'm fine on that front. But 2025, I was like looking at my bookings the other day. I was like, that's a little bit
Yeah.
slower than normal. And it's crazy because I feel like I see so many more people out and about and like doing things and like planning weddings, you know. But I don't know if it's because more wedding photographers are like coming like into the game, like new wedding photographers. It's a really interesting kind of like dynamic to figure out. But and then like it's you kind of have to walk that line of like teetering into like, am I like middle budget? Am I like, you know, going for the people who like don't care about budget? And that's been like the line I've been kind of walking for the past year now is figuring out what market I really want to be in because it is so that like really
Oh, for
determines
sure.
your bookings because if I drop my prices by, you know, X amount of thousands of dollars, I would, you know,
Right.
probably fill up my calendar really fast, but is it worth it, you know?
Yeah.
Like not really. You're
And you'll have
getting
to
really
book
low
more
quality
to make what
bookings
you
and
would if
so
you kept
people
your
just
prices
kind of
high.
think,
I feel like there's at least, I mean, there's probably a
yeah.
lot more reasons than just two, but I feel like the biggest two is that number one, there are a lot of photographers kind of coming out. They're all like, oh, wait, wedding photography, like I could make lots of money and it's not that hard. And I'm putting air quotes for the podcast. I know, right? Eye
Oh my
roll,
gosh.
insert eye roll here. It's not that hard and it's so easy and I can make lots of money. And so, like, everybody is just picking up a camera and starting a wedding photography business, which scares the crap out of me because I feel like they don't know what they're doing. Like they might have a good eye and they might figure out how to edit photos, but like longevity, like they don't know how to like do taxes. They don't know how to back up their photos
Hmm.
so that clients are like could potentially lose images. Like there's so many things that like hiring a new photographer, like yes, you get a good deal on a wedding photographer because they're only charging you $1,000 for a 12-hour wedding day, but like oh my God, that's terrifying. Even if they are, yeah, at what
But at what
cost? And
cost?
then the second reason I think that
Yeah.
bookings are slower is because life is fucking expensive. Like it's like grocery store trips
Yeah.
used to, we have to cut in half because it's like, it's so much money now, like just to go to the grocery store and like, and pay for gas and like
Yeah.
going to a restaurant. Like you can't go anywhere without spending $50, even without ordering alcohol. It's like meals are $20 here in Nashville. It's like, what? It's like, how can I get a
Yeah.
$20 meal? He
Yeah.
gets a $20
It's
meal and we
crazy.
get like a sweet tea. And between that and tax, we're walking out the door at like 52 bucks. Yeah. I'm like, what the
It's
heck?
like
This was lunch and
$50.
we spent $52. So I think people's budgets in general are just cut in half. So they have no choice but to go with those newer photographers because they
Hmm.
are lower budgeted.
Yeah.
Or they're cutting in other ways to still have high quality vendors, like maybe venues. We were just talking about this in our photography group that we have here in Nashville. There's like 30 of us in there. And we were all talking about like local venues and how much they're charging. Some of them start at $16,000 and some of them are up to like $45,000. I'm like, that is like a salary. Like that is what someone could make in a year. And they're
Yeah.
charging that for one wedding day.
Yeah.
Like absolutely insane.
One day. I Any listeners out there, if you're a bride, I planned a small wedding. I have 45 people coming to my wedding with my fiance, and we got our venue on Verbo. And for 3 nights, it was
Heck
$5,000.
yeah.
So, and it's literally beautiful, and it's like one big like Victorian house and like 2 cottages, and like
Wow.
it's on
Sounds
the water.
beautiful. I'm sure you
It's
can give us
stunning.
lots of
So
tips
you
for
can get a
like
beautiful
balling on a
place.
budget.
It is so interesting, like planning a wedding, like in understanding like why brides get so frustrated, because I hear a lot of brides that say like, like these vendors don't put their prices on their website at all. And it is so true. We were looking for venues, and a huge reason we didn't end up going with a regular venue was because we couldn't find anybody who like had their
Yeah.
prices, like even their starting or average price like listed. And I just
Annoying.
thought that was kind of
Yeah.
a red flag
So
to
you
me.
put your
I don't
prices on
like
your
it.
website?
Yeah, I do my starting price. So I offer like a wedding weekend package, and I list that starting price for in-state, out-of-state, and international. And then I list my starting price for just a regular one-day wedding. And I start at 8 hours.
Anything less?
I don't do elopements or anything less than 8 hours. And so then I have that same thing like international, in-state, out-of-state. And then I list my
Yeah.
starting session price. So it's been a lot easier because I'm not
For like
receiving like
$1,200?
inquiries. They're like more solid leads. Yeah, exactly. And that was what I was running into when I was a little bit more discreet about my pricing was, uh, and I don't really, and
I'm
if
like you, I have
do
my
you have your
starting
pricing on your
prices
website?
because I want to eliminate the back and forth of people being like, because it was
Yeah,
just in a way it was more work for me because people would like inquire and their budget was $1,000 and I would have to respond to them and say, sorry, I'm out of your budget. Here's another option. Or if I didn't know anybody in their budget, I'm just like, I feel like I can't help you. And so then I felt bad being like, sorry, I'm out of your price range and I have no suggestions for you. I'm just like leaving you hanging. And so then I felt guilty and I was like, why
yeah.
am I doing this to myself? It's more work for me. It's making me feel guilty. If I just put what my starting prices are at, then people will at least like they'll be like, oh well, she starts at $3,000 or whatever. I'm not going to inquire with her when our budget is only two. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So let's weed out those people.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I could go on and on about pricing and that kind of stuff
Yeah.
because it fascinates me, just like with the market that we're in right now and stuff. But yeah, I have been really mulling over that idea of like a lot of like very, very like
Yeah.
celebrity high end wedding photographers.
Right.
Obviously, they're not going to list their prices
Yes.
because
They're
those
just like
people don't
whatever.
care. But for the vast majority of people,
It's not
that's not
feasible.
like
Yeah.
a real plausible. Yeah, that's not an
Right.
actual thing that you deal with. So I think it's really misleading for people, especially who are new in the industry, to like think they have to be so secretive to be like luxury and like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Which
I
also
don't
I
use that
hate
word
that
anymore
word.
either.
Like it gets thrown around. Thank you. I also like literally like the word documentary style photography like is what blew me up like a year and a
Yeah.
half
Oh
ago,
yeah.
and I
We
hate
all
that
we
word
all get
now.
onto that trend of like
So
luxury photography, documentary photography, and then all of a sudden we're like, ugh, that gives me the ick like saying it or reading it. I'm just like, what defines luxury
yeah,
photography? I tell everyone, especially with, like when I'm training my second shooters and when I'm training my associate shooters, I'm like, shoot every wedding like it is a $10,000 package. Like for you, like every wedding. It doesn't matter if you're
yeah,
in a barn with no AC, like you should be shooting this wedding like it's a $50,000 wedding. Like it doesn't matter if they're only paying you $1,000 versus
yeah.
$20,000. Like you should still treat those weddings with respect. So why should we say luxury photographer, like luxury photos, when yeah, maybe a barn with no AC in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky or something like that isn't necessarily going to be labeled as luxury, but you can still give them luxury photographs. Like I hate that word. It's just so dumb.
It
It's
is. It
limiting,
really is. There are a lot of people too that I have found I personally don't really even want to be in the like
Right.
super luxury market because of the
Yeah.
amount of
Every hair
pressure
has to
that
be
is
perfectly in
on you there.
place. Like if her dress train blows in the wind, you have
Yes,
to go
like
fix it
unless
every
I
single
can,
photo.
yes. Oh my gosh. And so like I've been like aiming like
Yeah.
my word is like more
High
high
end.
end is my like kind of keyword I'm aiming for because luxury is it's like
Nope.
we're not getting married at the White House. We're
Nope.
not, Joe Biden's daughter, even though that wedding was insane and I would have wanted to
Well,
photograph that.
that and like
So
I feel like
I would
it
have been
limits like the
very
people
shitless
that are going
though.
to inquire with you because what if their style isn't necessarily a luxury photographer style, but they like your work, but then you call yourself a luxury photographer, or
Mhm.
maybe they don't know your prices. Like if you don't have your prices on your website, but you're calling yourself a luxury photographer, they're going to be like, oh, well, she's a luxury photographer, so she probably starts at 10K. I'm not even going to bother with inquiring her because she's
Mhm.
a luxury photographer. And I'm just like, no, I'm not a luxury
Yeah.
photographer. You can inquire with me. We'll be friends. It's fine.
I'll hang out. I'll drink a
Exactly.
beer. I know it's so funny. My favorite weddings are like the people who have these really nice, like beautiful, elegant weddings, but then like they are the most like deranged, like in a
You're
good
like,
way,
I need to
like
preface that.
deranged fun people, and you're just like yeah. And I'm like, and I am just like, you guys
Hmm.
rule. Like, you're my kind of people. Like, you aren't like, snooty or anything. That's kind of what my like ideal client is. Like, they have style. They have, like, like the budget for a really beautiful big wedding that
Right.
is like elegant, but then it has like these weird little like quirky things that really bring
Yes.
out their personality. I just had a call yesterday with a couple who is doing
Oh
like
my
a
God,
70s
fun.
theme
Oh,
like California wedding, and they're having like a like a
what?
vinyl DJ
That's so
and everything.
cool.
And so yeah, and it's at my favorite venue in
You're like,
California.
can
And I'm like, yeah, this is it. And
please
like,
book
you're
with
like
me, please,
crossing your
please.
fingers, like waiting for them
Yes.
to be like, we want to book with you. But yeah, that's kind of like where my aim is. And I think that a lot of like that word luxury is really
Hmm.
being thrown around right now. And it's like really distracting for a lot of
Yeah.
people who are newer in this industry. And I feel like it's making them feel
Hmm.
less than if they
The
are
barn
shooting,
weddings.
like you said, like the barn
Yeah.
weddings or like that kind of stuff. And it's almost like we aren't allowing people who are new in the industry to like be
Right.
okay with being new and like be and it's just like it's expected that they're supposed to like deliver these amazing galleries and have like these amazing venues when
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
realistic at all for like
Right.
90% of
Yeah.
wedding
Well,
photographers
especially here in
probably.
Tennessee, like all we
um
have is
and then like
barns. Like they even some of our nicer, like
yeah.
higher end venues are still barns. They're just like a white barn and like inside they're white
Mhm.
and like the roof is like a silver metal tin roof instead of like, wood. It's still a barn,
Mhm.
but it's a nicer barn. So like there are very, very, very,
Yeah.
very few weddings or wedding venues in Tennessee that aren't barn weddings. And so it's hard to classify yourself as like, I feel like that's not, I don't know. When I hear the word luxury, I don't think of barn, even if it's a nice barn, I don't think those two things go together. So
Mhm.
labeling myself as a luxury photographer in Nashville, Tennessee, like would only work if I shoot primarily like downtown Nashville, like high rise, like city vibe,
Yeah.
which those will, those cost lots and
Mhm.
lots of money for the venues. And so they are going to hire a photographer who would charge probably 10K, which I do not. So like for a local, obviously 8-hour wedding. So yeah, I mean, it's limiting to what I would shoot and in here in this, like in this specific area.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know the venues in Tennessee, like you said, there are a lot of barns and that kind of stuff. Are there like I know like I get a lot of inquiries for like South
Hmm.
Carolina and like Virginia and stuff with like a lot of
Hmm.
estate style venues. Does Tennessee have that or is it
A lot
a
more
lot more
rustic.
like rustic?
Yeah,
They're
we
like the
have
rustic
we
part of
have
the
like
South.
one or two venues that are like I wouldn't really classify them as like an estate because I know what you're talking about, but we have one that's like it's called Mint Springs Farm, and it has like this gorgeous hill that you can go up to when the sun sets. It's like the most epic golden hour you've ever seen. They have like a really nice house, like a white house with like a huge getting ready area and a cute little greenhouse that you can take pictures in. And then they have like a big pond with a dock, and then like a reception barn with like a pavilion that's their ceremony space. But still reception barn, and that's it. It's not
Yeah.
like really an estate style. Like I've seen there was one that just opened in like Georgia that literally looks like straight out of France, and I'm like, I want to go there so bad. I think it was Georgia. Yeah, I
Oh my gosh,
will.
you need to send it to me.
Yeah,
You need to send it to me. I want to see it. I'm such a venue girl. Like
I want to open my
I'm
own
so
venue
big on
so
venues.
bad.
Like
I've
I
been trying
said,
to convince my
I
husband to just buy some land here in Tennessee. And I'm like, from the photographer standpoint, I'll be like, okay, well, we need to leave this field open because the sunset's right there. So that is their golden hour spot. And then like this needs to be
uh-huh.
white so that it's easy to color correct when you're shooting. Like, yeah, I just told him all the time, I'm like, we need to build one that's not a freaking barn and we would make so much money. And he's like, no.
No, you probably would because people are probably, it sucks because those people who live there, are probably looking for those venues and they don't want to travel out of state because, they have friends and family where they grew up um and like you're so limited to, like the area you're in, and that's something I've learned from traveling so much for weddings. The venues change so drastically across the
Yeah.
country. It's insane to me. I just did one up in Oregon at like this. I almost didn't take this wedding because it was a Universalist Unitarian church, and I was like, I don't even take church weddings. I'm
You're
not
like,
super
no, thank
religious,
you.
and so I almost just like was gonna be like no, and then so I looked into it, and they're actually like a really cool group. They're super like open and welcoming. Like basically, it's like church for people who don't like religion, kind of a thing. And I
At
could
least
be
the
wrong.
vibes you were getting
I just
were,
that's what I
yeah.
grasped from Google. And yeah, but it was this beautiful like inside mid-century modern, like all like this beautiful wood, like huge ceilings, skylights, like just all this like beautiful colored like I don't know what
Mm.
kind of wood it was, but it was gorgeous. And they did like kind of like
Ooh,
dune
cool.
grassy kind of stuff like up the aisle, and they killed it. And I was like, I'm so
Yeah.
happy I said yes to this wedding because I kind of took a chance on it because I was
Yeah.
like, this just
You're like,
looks
it
kind
could
of
go either
like
way.
like
You have to like
quirky.
really do it
And
well to make it look nice, or if you don't
yeah,
do enough, you're gonna be like, that was a bust.
yeah, honestly, I went to her
I have
Instagram and she had
faith.
great
I
style,
have
so I was like,
faith.
okay, she's good. Yeah, include the Instagram in the inquiry form, please, so I can at
Yes.
least see what you look like. Because I can't tell you how many times I've showed up to a shoot and been
Are
like,
you?
where
I.
are these
Oh,
people? I
isn't
have
that the best
no
feeling in
idea
the
what
world
they
where you're
look
like,
like.
are you Are you Martha? Nope. Okay. What about you? Are you? No. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
It's.
so awkward.
I just want to like
It's so
put a hat.
awkward.
I feel like most people see me and they recognize me because I'm on my reels a lot and I'm on my stories a lot. So
Mhm.
usually I wait for someone to wave at me and that's
Mhm.
how I know it's them. But in the early days, before I was really like well known on Instagram, I was that definitely like I need a hat that says like I'm Kaylee or like I'm a photographer or something so that like people like that's her,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, yeah, no, we definitely do. I need to put names on grooms because I can never for the life of me remember a groom's name. I don't know if it's because I'm gay and I'm just
You're like
around women
men's
more than I
names just
am
kind of
around
float in
men,
one ear and out the
but like
other.
give me two women. Yeah, give me a lesbian
Hmm.
couple, I'll remember their names. I haven't shot like two gay men. I have not shot like that type of wedding before. And so I would be
Remember their
interested to see
names.
if I
Oh, I
would
bet you would. I bet you
remember
would.
their names.
I was just about to ask
Yeah.
because I've never shot a gay.
But
I've shot lesbian weddings, but I've never shot a gay wedding, and I feel like nobody that I know has either. Like, why? That makes me sad.
yeah, I almost booked a really, really cool one in New York City, and then like right before we were about to hop on the call, they sent me an email and they were like, hey, so our friend like surprised us and
Don't we
like she's
love
a
those emails?
photographer and she wasn't going to be able to come to the wedding and now she can.
I
And I was
hate
like,
when that happens, just in
darn
general, but
it.
especially when you're like, no, that could have been like my first gay man wedding.
And
Dang
they were
it.
so cute and they were
Yeah,
so
I bet.
nice.
It'll
I was
come, it'll
so angry.
happen. Oh, that would
And
have
it was
been
like New York
awesome.
City. Yeah, no, it's gonna happen. Yeah, I'm planning to do like a retreat sometime like late fall, November,
Ooh,
early December maybe.
toying with the idea of doing it in New York
And
City.
in one of the shoots I wanted to. No, I'm gonna do it. I think in Page, Arizona. So, like
Oh,
up
pretty.
in like Vermilion Cliffs and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, if any of your
Yeah.
listeners, watch out for
Start
that. If
saving
you
your
follow
monies
me, I don't know if you
now.
want to come. Yes, and so I think one of the shoots I'm going to try. It's
Right.
always kind of like who you can find too, who's available. Try to find two men who will do an editorial couple
A
shoot with me
dream.
because that's been like on my bucket list for shoots for a while because I think men are like they're much easier to
Right.
pose like
Oh, for
like
sure.
in an
Yeah.
editorial way. I feel like than women. Women are
Yeah.
always a little bit more flowy, and men, I feel like it would be a really cool like color blocking
Yes, that would be
outfits
cool.
kind of
I
situation.
think it's also maybe just
I'm
because
like
like men don't
planning it
really
in my
like their
head.
pictures taken, and that's probably why. But I mean, gay men could be
Yeah,
different and love their
yeah.
photos taken, but most, at least straight men, are like, I hate this. So
No, and it's so crazy. I don't get it. I literally don't. I think like I mean I'm a
you're like,
lesbian, so
I'm
lesbians are
biased,
my
but
favorite. Like, well, I guess two women who are dating each other. They don't both have to be lesbians, but I love taking
yes.
photos of two women together because like there's way more emotion going on, and we're all a little bit more connected because
Like the
it's not
gender
like there's
block.
kind of like this not that any men are
Right.
like like the third wheel, but
Yes.
sometimes I feel
Yes.
like, do you know what I mean? Like you feel like when you're like with a couple, you're kind of like her like
Yes. Like
fiance is like the
we're
third wheel a
vibing,
little
but
bit
you
because
know.
you're just chit chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
it doesn't happen super often anymore. I've been really lucky with the men I've been working with. They have been super chatty and nice and fun, but especially in my earlier years, you were getting like like the moms who were like, you have to take your family pictures, and then they just like stood there like,
Yeah.
come on, don't you
Right?
want to remember your
Exactly.
life? So yeah,
I don't either.
I don't
It's
get why
sad.
men
It's
do
sad.
that.
But we
It's
can get them out
so
of our
it's so
shells, and that's
silly,
totally fine.
but
We'll make it work.
yes,
So
exactly.
you're a big ally in
Yeah.
the industry, which is one of the other reasons that I love coming to your page and like looking at your stuff, because it's number one, it's like refreshing to see just openly out there that some people maybe take the pictures, but they don't like post them as often. And so I would love if
Yeah.
you would talk a little bit more on that and like how you built that into your business and things that you love about it,
Hmm.
and yeah, just all the things. Like I'm an open book. I'm an open book. I'm open ears. So I'm open for anything. Bring
Yeah.
it on.
No, you're fine. I yeah, so I came out in 2020 or 2019, I think is when I like officially came out to my friends and family and everything. And before that I had like only dated men, and so they were
They were
kind of
like the
confused.
what?
And
Yeah.
then they're like, "What?" And so yeah, so now kind of fast forward a little bit, I was really scared to like be
Yeah.
openly gay in my business or like kind of like have that be a piece of my business because I had a client that like she didn't directly say it was because I was gay, but cancel her wedding with me, but it was
Oh
a little bit
no.
implied. And so it was
Yeah,
like, that
because
was
you
like
didn't want
really
that to
scary for
continue to
me.
happen when it's like
And
how you make a
so
living. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, for
especially in the
sure.
Midwest too. And
Oh
I was
yeah.
living in Michigan at the
That's
time.
terrible.
Yeah, and there's a reason I moved. So it took me a long time, but then I finally, once I started to build up a little bit more traction on social media and stuff, I was kind of like, I don't want to receive an inquiry for somebody who doesn't know that I'm gay, and then I like show up at their wedding and I have a literal rainbow tattoo on my
Yeah.
arm and I talk about my fiance
Yeah.
and use she her pronouns
What?
and they're
Yeah.
like, you. And so I was like,
Right.
let's just eliminate the
Just make it
problem
obvious.
altogether. And so I have it. Yeah, so I have like LGBTQ owned as like the first thing on my Instagram profile in my bio. And then on my website I have like a whole little section on inclusivity, because I just think that's really important in terms of like sure you're not isolating like
Yeah.
a group of people, because I think like a lot of photographers like they say they're inclusive and all this stuff, and we all know that the majority of the people we work with are straight
Cis. Yeah.
like
Right. Mm-hmm.
cis het couples, like that's fine, that's normal, and I don't mind that at all, but I was just like looking around when I was trying to find my own wedding photographer, and which shout out to Annie Morgan, she's my
Eee.
wedding photographer, love her, and we just like couldn't, my fiance and I
Yeah.
like couldn't
Yeah.
find like anybody,
Especially someone who's
like,
so like who
and
puts it out there
who
that they
was
are
like,
LGBTQ friendly, you know?
yeah, yeah, and it's kind of like it's always like a little bit discreet, and so I was like, and it's not even just like about the LGBTQ community. I think it's also like, are you welcome to
Yeah,
like
true.
other religions, other,
Yeah.
like races, like other, like anything, like even
Mm-hmm.
people who are
Right.
like handicapped, or you know what I mean? Like something like that. Like you want to like cater or let all these people know that they're not, I have like on my website that you're not only accepted
Aw.
here, you are celebrated here. And so I just think that it's important to put it
Yeah.
out there first, and foremost, so that people can see that, because we don't get it. I mean, like I have queer couples on my Instagram, but it's just you don't. It's hard, honestly. It's hard to find them. I recently took photos, of a queer couple, and they told me that they loved that they found me because they like had been
Uh,
rejected by a couple photographers because they were
yeah.
gay too, and so it's like it's just
Yeah.
awkward. Just
Well,
let
and I
them
get
know, you
like
know.
I see both
Yeah.
sides of it because it's like if, you know, the photographer doesn't want to if they don't feel comfortable or if it's against their religion, then like they have the right to
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I don't think we're a good fit
Mhm.
together." But it's important that you can make
Yeah.
that known beforehand so that the couple, like the queer couple or whoever is inquiring with you, doesn't feel like have a chance to feel that rejection because they knew from the beginning like that you're not open to that because of
Yeah.
your like whatever it is, your bio, your languaging on your website, something languaging is that even a word? But you know what I mean. Your copy on your website and that kind of stuff is like pretty straightforward on if you do or if you don't. And yeah. But I think it's great putting
Yeah.
it out there on your website. I love
Yeah.
that you have a little section for them like specifically to talk about how they're celebrated and welcomed. To it's I think that's important. We should all, I don't know how many, I'm going to have to do a deep dive
Yeah.
now on like other people who say they're LGBTQ friendly and see if they have something on their website that says it too. And it's not just like, oh yeah, I hear blah, blah, and that's all
No,
they do.
it's so funny. Yeah, and a huge thing for me that really made me do this was in my town of Grand Rapids. That was where I used to live in Michigan. And there's a venue there, beautiful, beautiful venue, like old church. They renovated it, painted the entire like cathedral in like white, and like put in these beautiful checkered tiled floors.
I
Like
think I know
it
which
is
one
like
you're
a
talking
dream
about.
venue.
Did it like
And
blow up on Instagram?
and
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
I
it
won't
blew up
say
on
his name.
Instagram a couple years ago.
Yeah, they kind of got in a lot of trouble on
Yep.
Instagram, like 2 years ago, and so yeah, they put on their website, which I guess like good for you to like put it out there, but they put on their website, that they will not work with any gay people, and so a lot of people like canceled their weddings there, protested there, and it just made me feel like, which they have, like the
Right.
religious right to do that, but it made me be like, if they can post like, to me something so negatively online that, states who they are and what they believe, then I
The
should be
same
able to
thing,
post
but
like
yeah.
who I am and
Yeah.
what I believe. And so that was what kind of inspired me to do that. And I've had a lot of queer couples that have worked with me, say that they really, really appreciate it. And so yeah, I it's something I really talk about a lot, because I even like as of recently, Pride Month, I posted like a thing about why I'm so open with my business, and I had
Oh
500
my
people unfollow me.
God.
So that was really fun in that week. So I
Yeah,
was
good
like,
riddance. People who are
it
going to
was
be
so
following you that are
funny.
going to like share your
I
stuff and
couldn't
be
help but
like,
laugh.
props to you. Like, look at this girl. She's awesome, instead of being like, I don't know. Like it's going to
Yeah.
put your work in front of those people more now that those 500 people that don't need to follow you are gone, then it's
Yeah.
going to be in front of the faces that people need to see.
It honestly made
Yeah,
my engagement go
people
up a
don't
little
understand
bit.
that doing a
So like,
follower clean out every once in a while is important. Like going through and removing spam accounts is so needed. So if you can do a post like that where it cleans it
oh my
out, that's
gosh.
not really spam accounts, but you know what I mean, where it like cleans it out for
Yeah.
you, you're like, okay, cool, here we go. Let's see my engagement skyrocket now.
I'm like, bye. I was like, at least my content's been being like
Exactly.
put in front of the right people, like you said. And yeah, I've gotten it was really funny. When it first happened, I was really like, oh my God, should I not have posted that? And then after thinking about it more, I was like,
Yeah.
we're good. Like we're
Yeah.
good. We're rocking
It's
and
important.
rolling.
And like you said, that you're letting couples know who are looking for a photographer that if they are queer, that you are a safe space and that you can work with anybody and they'll feel comfortable, you'll feel comfortable, like no hard feelings. Like,
Yeah, and it's so interesting too because I'm not a very political person by any means either. And I like to think of myself as like an overall like accepting person. And so like I would work
yeah,
with anybody, to be totally honest. Like I don't care if your wedding is super religious or anything like that. It's more
probably like how they treat
like
you and how you treat them, how
just
they treat the people in there. That's what matters to me
exactly.
the most. I don't care if you're marrying the
Yeah.
same gender or what. I don't care as long as you guys are going to be nice to me and you guys are going to be nice to the people at the wedding and the other vendors that are there.
Yeah.
Like, that's my ideal
Uh-huh.
couple.
As long as
Yeah,
I'm eating when the bride and
exactly.
groom are eating, I don't
Honestly.
care. Like, it's a good
Exactly.
day if that
So,
happens.
what are some tips for someone maybe who, because I remember when I first started, for newer photographers who are wanting to maybe start getting into the either whether it's like photographing LGBTQ community or someone of a different race or whatever, especially here in Nashville, I would say we have a lot of like white people, and so that was my portfolio. It was just like cis hetero white people. And so I had a couple who inquired with me, or it was a family, I guess, but they were like Asian, and she was like, I don't know, like not really getting mad at me, but when I sent the photo, she was like, just so you know, like it was really hard to like decide if I wanted to book with you because you had no people that weren't white on your profile. And I'm like, I know, but it's not, I would say it's not my fault, but it's like I just don't have clients that inquire. It's not like I'm turning people away because they're
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So if you are wanting to get into that industry, what would you recommend, or not that industry, but that realm, what would you recommend to photographers? Would they set up something for fun, and like, yeah. Yep.
Honestly, like yeah, like like I am like the biggest advocate for like if like doing free
Yeah.
shoots has zero fans, I'm
Right.
good.
I'm still having
Like
fun,
I
so I'll
like
still do a
because
shoot.
I I love doing free shoots. It's like so inspiring, but also, yeah, then you can be so selective on the people you're photographing. Like you can then even like put out a model call for like you want your models to be like POC. And so I think that is like a really, really important like
Yeah.
thing to do when it comes to like building your portfolio is making sure that you have people of different sizes, you have people of different skin tones, even like different
Yeah.
heights,
Yeah.
ages. Yeah,
Yeah.
ages is a huge one. And I need to get better about ages too. I'm like, can
Yeah.
I get
Right.
like a 50-year-old
Or even
couple
just
to
like have even like, I mean, both.
I think setting up your own personal shoots, so that way people can see how you edit their skin tone, because that is like a really big thing. This past year, I have been very lucky to get a lot of clients, especially since moving out west, that are like a lot of different races, and so it's been really cool for my
It's
portfolio because I'm
expanding.
like, awesome, like I'm becoming a better editor because I'm not just editing, like from the Midwest, like primarily white skin tone. And so I am creating presets that are more, inclusive. And that is really, really helpful. And then also another thing you can do too is find like styled shoots that do have like inclusive that are inclusive. Like my styled shoes. So this is not an advertisement for my
No, but really though, in the fall, you gotta check it out.
So my fiance is like helping me plan it,
Fun.
so I say we. But we are kind of like planning on doing, like I said, like two gay men, and then I think a lot of styled shoots that I've seen, it'll be like a queer couple for like the like for a regular session, but then the bridal session is always a straight couple. And so my goal for this is to have a lesbian couple be the bridal session, like, because I'm going to do one bridal session, like an editorial, then like a cinematic shoot. And so then my cinematic shoot, I want it to be like two, like, people of color. I want it to be very inclusive. And so that everybody who comes to this retreat is like gaining a portfolio that will actually
not just be pretty pictures, but
clients.
like pretty pictures of people who are like,
yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest one for me right now that I'm noticing with styled shoots is like, it's all like, I'm a mid-sized girl, and I'm like, and it's always like really
same. I'm a mid-sized girl too, so I feel you.
And, like,
I show up and I'm just like, yeah, I do not look like that.
Yeah, and I literally said to my fiance the other day, I was like, I like actually like love taking photos of like curvier people too, like, because I would consider myself like a little bit curvier, and so it makes me feel like I can be a little bit more in my body, because I can relate to their movements a little bit more. And so, yeah, I think that's another big thing I want to focus on for this retreat too, is making sure that not everybody
society's
is like
idea of sexy.
Perfect. Like,
yeah.
Literally.
No, I'm glad that you're doing that.
Literally, which is fine, which is great.
Yeah, but we love taking pictures of real people too. So, and it's important for the normal American to see themselves in your photos, especially if you're wanting to book more of those types of works or work with those kinds of people. I mean, for me, I always relate more on a deeper level to like curvier women. Like if they'll inquire with me and they're like, just so you know, like I'm a curvy girl, so posing might be difficult. And I'm like, no, it's not. I got you. Like, you just have to know someone who knows what they're doing. Yeah, I know. But I think it's just because they're so, they're so self-conscious and they don't like being in front of the camera. And so it's like, I can relate to that, but I can also help you start changing that mindset and be like, no, this is fun. And I should be like wanting to get in front of the camera and document my life, and I shouldn't be hiding my body and hiding myself, because life's too short, and then you'll look back and be like, wow, I literally have no pictures of myself. When your grandkids or your great grandkids are like, what did I look like when you were pregnant with me or whatever, and you're like, I don't know, I didn't take any pictures because I was self-conscious. That's really sad. That's really sad. So
yeah, it is. Yeah, I have a mom who like never takes pictures of herself because she's always like self-conscious, and she's gotten better about it. And so I'm like, I wish I had more pictures of you, like from when I was in high school and from, like that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think it just sucks. I think that's one of the best parts about our job is like making people feel really pretty. Like that is one of my favorite parts about it, especially women. We're
really harsh
women,
on
so
ourselves.
we can relate to that like a lot. But yeah, and people just like I always go into weddings with the mindset of like, I want to photograph this like I'm like the bride or the groom's best friend.
Which is awesome. I love that.
And because that's how I want them to see their day through like the eyes of, like I want to see their day through the eyes of like somebody who loves them. And like your best friend wouldn't stop taking a picture just because you like had a double chin, but your smile was so beautiful. You were
Those
so
are always
happy.
some of my
Like,
favorite pictures is
and
when
so,
they
yeah,
like are
it's
caught
a
off guard laughing or something like that. And I'm like, I don't care if they have a double chin. I'm sending this to them because they look like pure joy right there on their face. And that's what matters.
And then I'm like, but if it was me,
right. I know.
Like,
then
no.
I see that picture and I'm like, oh yeah, I wouldn't post that anywhere, but it's good to have.
I know. Yeah. If it's like a picture of myself, it's so funny because I always see brides and I'm like, you guys are so beautiful. Literally, no matter what you do, like no matter how you look or how you're standing or whatever, you look gorgeous. Like
Yeah.
there's no way you could look ugly today. But then like with my own stuff,
Yeah.
I'm
You're like,
like,
that is angle is
absolutely
not
not.
for
Yeah, I cannot feel that
Yeah.
way about myself for some reason. But yeah, I love that you also love taking pictures of people who are different sizes too, because that
No.
people I don't think people
No,
talk
I
about
mean,
it enough
I do know that
either.
there are some challenges when it comes to like, especially posing, like because there are certain things that just like certain poses that don't work. A lot of the ones of like hugging from behind, that doesn't really work when
Mhm.
you're, I mean, unless they're the right
Mhm.
height, sometimes that doesn't really work because they're farther away
Yeah.
from each other, or like putting hands on the hips. Like I love getting like
Mhm.
close-ups of hands on the hips or whatever, or like if they're holding their hands down, I'll just like focus on their hands, but they don't want to, they're not like, it's not the same and they think it's not the same. And I'm like, I'm still getting these pictures because you don't
Yeah.
understand that it's who you are. It's like that's a part you still deserve these pictures. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what your jean size is. It doesn't matter if you shop at
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a plus size store or a if you can fit into double zeros. Like you're important no matter what.
Yeah, and I think that too is why, like, in my posing course, I talked about this a lot, like, learning how to pose from a place of like intuition rather than like a set list of poses. Because when you do kind of create this set list of poses, that you can kind of have like, and I talk about this a lot, and it like having
Yeah.
a baseline like pose, like something to always refer back to in case you get stuck. But learning to teach yourself how to pose clients from a place of intuition is so beneficial. Especially when you're working with clients of like different sizes and different races and like that kind of stuff, and in queer couples and versus straight couples, if you don't know how to use your intuition to decide what to do, you're going to always resort to like the same
Right.
poses, and they're not going to work because they don't work. Like it's not a one size fits all at all.
Yeah.
This is
I
not
know.
Brandy Melville. Like
I know. You
I just
reminded me.
watched
I was
that
like, dang it, I
documentary,
still
so
haven't
that's why
watched
I was
that
on that.
yet.
So good, you have to watch it. It was so good. I watched it like, I mean, I guess I watched it a little while ago, but it was so good. But yeah, and so learning to kind of like be able to just like flow through a session and watch your clients like natural movements and all of that, rather than forcing new like movements onto them is way more beneficial than just like lining up a bunch of poses, because you are going to make them feel uncomfortable because they're not going to feel natural. And clients, like couples, like they the second you meet them, if you watch them, they move together really organically and naturally, like from the start, especially if they're like
Yeah.
really
Right.
touchy,
If they're
like
openly
lovey
more
people
about
with
like
each other.
PDA.
And you could be, yeah, like you should be paying attention to that and like what looks good, like with them just walking away or how they're just standing with each other. And so yeah, that's my spiel on
Yeah.
why I hate
Yeah.
just
No, I
having a
like
list
that
of
because
poses.
it's important to notice like the nuances and the differences between couples because there could be one where like maybe one of them's kissing the other one's hand constantly and you're like, okay, well that's clearly what they do. So like let's take pictures of it.
Mhm.
Let's incorporate that more
Mhm.
often. And then sometimes like I might suggest that and then you can see in their faces they're like and I'm like, okay, never mind, we're gonna move on. That's clearly not for you. Yeah.
I love that. I know. I always, the somebody, or I think I talked about this in my course too. Like
Yeah.
we all know, like the stare, where they're
That
like, what do I
what?
do? And yeah, and that's why too, I've kind of like resorted into teaching couples like also how to pose like at sessions and giving them the confidence to almost
Yeah.
decide their own movements and let me kind of like guide their movements from there. And oh my God, it helps so much. And they like chill out every single time they ask me what to do.
Yep.
I always say like whatever feels natural, just go for it. And I'll pose you from there. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And it's made sessions so much
Yeah.
more relaxing and chill, and they don't feel awkward. They have more confidence in how they move because I'm constantly
Right.
telling them I love the things they're already doing. And so yeah, that is really important, like all around, but especially when you're working with people who aren't like the average like beauty standard in America.
So like no-nos, if there are any that like automatically stick out to you that you're like, if you're trying to be more inclusive, what are some things that you should avoid?
So I think one of the things, it's so funny
Yeah.
we were DMing about this, and I actually, the same day we were talking about this, I got a DM of somebody asking me for posing advice for a queer couple. And I was
You're like adding it to
and
the
I was like,
list.
that was so ironic. That was literally like, yeah, and and they asked me for things to not do
Yeah,
too.
right.
So I
Like
was like,
what?
are you listening to me? And so yeah, I would say my biggest one is that I find people doing is they treat like they want to find that like more
Right.
masculine role. Like whereas a lot of times, most of the time, that doesn't like two women are like for me and my fiance per se, like we pretty much dress exactly the same. We both have long hair. We both
Yeah.
look like pretty feminine, and so it's a little bit easier to pose us because she's like 5'9" and I'm 5 feet tall, and so um, so she kind of has to take on the more like
Right.
masculine role in poses, but kind of
Yeah.
eliminating gender from your mind before you walk into it because if you go into that way, you're going to be like searching for like a
Yeah.
gender role that doesn't fit your
You're
couple,
still posing them like a
and
man and
it's
a
two women
woman.
for a reason.
You know.
Yes, yeah, and one thing that I tend to do is kind of like allow them to decide what role they want to take on. So usually if I say like, I want somebody to get picked up and like spin around or something like
Whoever
that,
wants
I
it.
will say like instead of yeah, I'll say like, okay, I want one of you guys to pick up the other one and like spin in a circle. You guys decide who goes, and that has really helped a lot because
Like
it makes
pressure to
them not
be,
feel like you don't want to make like the
I have to
taller
pick
one
up the
feel
person.
like,
Yeah.
oh,
Right. Right.
like I'm the
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. And so yeah, I would say that is my kind of like forcing a gender role onto clients
Yeah.
who that doesn't pertain to,
The biggest one.
is kind of the biggest
Yeah. I
red
do that. I
flag
feel
in
like
my eyes.
there's definitely poses that are like typically like a guy would do and then a girl would do the other part of it or whatever. So like kissing on the cheek, for instance, I feel like 9 times out of 10 you make actually probably more than that, like 10 times out of 10 you make the guy kiss the girl on the cheek. Like that's the standard. You get them under the veil, they're
Mm-hmm.
kissing, he's kissing her on the cheek. Like you've got the veil swoop, you've got like whatever it is, it's like kiss her on the cheek. Well, okay, I love to swap it. Even when I have like normal like a guy and a girl couple, like I still make them swap because it's cute when like she's kissing him on the cheek. And so even if you have like say you and your fiance, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna still make you get up on your tippy toes and kiss your fiance on the cheek, even though she's taller than you, just because I think it's
Yes.
cute. It's like
Yes.
just
No,
because like
literally.
one person is taller or whatever doesn't mean that
Yeah.
they have to be take on the like mask role. So yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. That's a big one.
And it's made me like photograph
Right.
straight couples differently too. Kind of like using like just like
All
eliminating
together.
gender like from all photo shoots is really cool. And it makes
Right.
it makes it so much more
There's no
fun,
rules.
honestly, because you can kind of like go into especially when you want to lean into like editorial and that kind of stuff. It can be really cool. And then
Oh no, I'm
I
sorry.
had
Made you
another
forget.
no in my head, and now it flew away.
I
Oh my
started
gosh, no,
talking
you're
and I was
fine.
like,
That's just like a product of being
I know.
ADHD. Yeah, but no, I think that eliminating gender is like the biggest one that I can think of. And then the other one I was gonna say is it's remembering names with when you have two clients that are the same
Yeah.
gender is like because you have
Their
to
names more.
use their
Her.
name. You can't just
Yeah.
be like her. Uh, is yeah, it's something really important to remember because it can like I mean you're not going to get a client who's going to be annoyed by it really, but I mean I do it sometimes. They'll be like, oh, grab her
Yep.
hand, and they're
Yep.
like, we're both hers.
Yeah. I had a wedding a few weeks ago and it was a queer couple. It was a trans woman and a cis girl, but both of their pronouns were her. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna use your
Uh-huh.
names because it's gonna be kind of confusing for everyone because even like my second shooter and I were both hers, so I'm like, I can't just be like spin her around. They're like, who are you talking to? So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say your name.
Prep with the names before a session
Yeah.
with a queer couple for sure because I because I like if you're like
Yeah.
me you forget
Oh no.
names all the time. I am like I need to like say it over and over and over in my head, but by the end of it it's good, but it feels a little awkward like
Saying their
to like
names. Yeah.
constantly be using their name, but it's really not. It's so helpful, it's so beneficial. I think that people appreciate it too. It kind of eliminates some confusion. And then also too, another big, I guess this is not like a no, but just asking, especially if you like are working with queer couples, asking for pronouns because I have worked with queer couples before where, one of them is like very feminine, but like
Right.
they prefer they them pronouns. And so in my inquiry form, I have like name and pronouns next to it. So I
What
just
they are. Yeah.
automatically know like from the get-go. And it's eliminated like a lot of
Potential awkwardness.
like awkwardness. Yeah, yeah. And then also like no matter who it is when you're showing up like for especially a queer session. I mean, you can do this with a cis couple if you want to or a straight couple, I guess I should say. But just like at the beginning of every session I do with a queer couple, I say like, "All right, I just want to be straightforward, like
Yeah.
pronouns like put them out there so I know and they'll tell me and I think I've had clients tell me they appreciate it, especially if they are like, like trans or like non-binary or something too.
Right,
So
but
yeah, that's
it's
not really a
yeah,
no,
yeah. I
but
have
it's
that
a
on my
yes.
like couples questionnaire that I send out. So like after they've booked with me and like before we do a
Hmm.
couple shoot, whether it's like an engagement or just an anniversary or whatever, I have a question on there that's like, do you or your boo have any like nicknames or pronouns that you prefer to go by? And let me tell you, it's hilarious when my straight couples fill it out because they're like, baby, babe, but like you can just call us by our names. And I'm like, okay, I'm not asking about like nick, like those kind, like pet names, but I can't tell you how many times when I get like an inquiry form and they fill out like James Robert, blah, blah, blah as their name, you know? So I'm like saying like, hey, James Robert, like blah, blah, blah. And like their contract says James Robert.
Yes.
And then when I show up at the shoot, they're like, you can call me JR. I'm like, why couldn't you? I just
I
know
just
what
had
you
that
want me to
happen.
call you, okay? I don't need what you're calling each
Yeah. And
other.
then it feels awkward because I haven't been reading your name like that this entire time. Every time I get an inquiry,
Yeah.
it's like James. And I'm like, so showing up to the show and be like
Yeah,
JR, I'm like, that's a
exactly.
stranger.
Junior, it goes like it
That's
goes
funny.
both ways because like sometimes like if they are queer, they get what I'm going at, but like if it's a straight couple, they're just like boo, baby, sweetie, honey. I'm like,
Okay.
"No. I'm not going to call you sweetie."
I know I've gotten some funny pronoun answers before, like that was like time
Hims.
somebody wrote hymns and I
Yeah.
was like, that's
I'm
a
a
new one.
hims.
I was like, but I liked it. I like that you're participating. I like that you at least
That's what I
gave me an
talk about my
answer.
dog
So I know
as.
he's
Like
a
I'm like, oh
man.
look at him's feet. They're so tight. They're you know what I mean? But I'm like, I wouldn't call yeah, true,
I mean,
true,
maybe it's
but
for real.
no judgment. We're just like I've never heard that one before.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, ally, you love it.
Well, yeah, you're
Like you don't
here.
get
We're
it, but you
good.
love
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I feel like we had a good chat. We chatted about a lot of things.
Yeah.
We were like all over the
I
place, but I
know, I
feel like it
know.
was a
We
good
we like went all over the
conversation.
place.
Sometimes I just want to get on a podcast and just like
Yeah.
ask people, like ask photographers, like just random small questions, like how they run their business. Like, do you charge a 3% fee? Do you charge a travel fee? Like just
Uh-huh.
like random questions I want to know from everyone because everyone is different. And
Yeah.
I'm like, but that would be boring if I asked everyone. Yeah,
What
right.
questions are yes and yes?
I like that you're like yes and yes.
Yeah.
Right. But
If
it's just
anybody's
so funny
curious.
because I always, yeah, I
I charge
just
a
want to
flat
know
travel
like
fee.
how people like run their business and like how we all do things so differently. It's just everybody's mentality is so different. So we just being able to chat about like, do you put your price on your website? Like that's kind of cool. So thank you again for being here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a gatekeeper. I love being open and honest about all of this kind of stuff too. And yeah, yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I literally had so much fun. I'm going to send you a code too. So any of your listeners, they can have like a code
What?
for
That's
25% off any of my
awesome.
products.
Oh my gosh,
So
they
yeah,
are
we
gonna
can do
love
that too.
you.
um, yeah, I like it, and I'll that'll be on the presets and the posting
Amazing.
course
Yeah,
too.
definitely send that for me and I'll
So
put it in the show
yeah.
notes. Oh my gosh.
All right,
Yay,
perfect.
good. Thank you
I
so
had
much,
so
Tess,
much
for joining
fun.
me, and we'll chat later.